Welcome back to the Personality Hacker Podcast. My name is Joel Mark Witt.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
So Antonia, after doing Personality Hacker for a very long time, over 10 years now, the podcast, and helping people coach and all this, I realize you and I are not the same person.
No, that's true. We are not.
You're a different person.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been in relationships since 2010,
Mm-hmm.
so it's been a while, and married since 2012. So I've known you for a very long time. We've been together and we've been working together. And so being in a romantic relationship, both work and romance, clearly differences of opinions sometimes arise in our relationship.
From time to time.
Yes. And sometimes we can come to resolution and we can find common ground. In fact, most times I would argue in our relationship, we've been able to come to common ground. There's been a few times when we've had to agree to disagree. We couldn't come to common ground, but we found ways to work around it.
Yeah.
And then there's this third category I have an experience of, I'm sure you do as well, of things that we can't seem to sync up on or get together on.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I want to have that, we just have to we're still in the process of figuring it out, or we're just like, I guess maybe we'll never figure that one out. Like sometimes it arises with conflict. So different, like the complexes and all the material we bring in stuff. It's just stuff we need to figure out. And anytime you're two people, you have differences of opinion.
I'm not 100% sure where you're going, so I don't want to throw you off. But I would say I have a memory of at least two different arguments that have been ongoing battles for literally months, if not years.
Yeah.
Like issues that have taken months to resolve. Like maybe up to 2 years to figure out, from like snout to tail, from like the beginning of when it surfaced to the time that we had closure and peace and resolution. Like literally years.
Yeah. And a lot of work working through them.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the midst of now this is my second long-term relationship. I've been married twice. You're my second wife.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the first one didn't work out
Yeah.
for a lot of reasons, which we'll get into at some point in the future. But I think I realized that in some ways, and I think that if you're listening or watching right now, you probably have this realization too. Sometimes in the relationship, and I don't think this is necessarily you, Antonia, there's been moments of this, but sometimes I'm the only person that wants to work on an issue or something in our relationship. It's on me. And it's like, I wish you were part of it. And I've noticed that sometimes it's even if it's not a disagreement, it's like just something I want us to do or be or something. And you're not on board with it, or maybe just, it's not your thing. You're not interested in it right now, but I'm really into it, or I want to do something. And it's like, you know what? I guess I can work on this on my own. I don't necessarily have to bring you along for this. And then when it is conflict and things, sometimes I want to grow in a certain area, and maybe you have a difference of opinion on that. And so I feel like, okay, well, if I want to do this, I can't force both of us to do it. I have to be willing to do it just on my side if I really think this is important. But I've noticed sometimes I don't just do that. I don't just go, okay, I'll just do it on my side. It's interesting. Sometimes I'll think those thoughts, but I'll still say, yeah, but I really don't want to do it without her. I really do want us to agree on this or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll throttle my own growth, my own ability to change and grow and be different, because I only want us to do it together.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's an opportunity in our lives as couples. So if you're listening right now and you're in a relationship, or you've been in a relationship, you probably can map this to yourself. There's a moment where you realize, oh, wait a second, I'm not the same person as this other person I'm in a relationship with. Not only that, but I can't force or control them. I can't force them to do anything they want to do or control them. The only right I really have is to end the relationship. I don't really have any rights beyond that. I mean, I can request things, but there's no obligation for this person to do anything that they don't want to do.
You're referring to the quote that we sometimes make, that the only right a person has in a relationship is to leave, and everything else is a negotiation.
That's correct.
Right.
So I'm taking that premise,
right,
that it's a negotiation. It's not a right that I have. First of all, I think that's a game changer for most people. If you can just accept that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. So the relationship itself is that's the negotiating piece. Once we're in it, now everything else, that's the first start, and then everything else is negotiation afterward.
Yep.
But what if you are somebody with a partner that, you're pretty invested in growth? I think I am too. Mostly you and I will engage in this. We'll attempt to, but I know people right now, there's somebody right now, you might be listening or watching right now, and you're in a relationship where you have the perspective, you are the only person, as far as you're concerned, that wants to do anything about the challenge you're in with this partner situation that you're, the dynamic that's emerged. Maybe you're not getting along with your partner. Maybe there's a certain issue you can't resolve. You've tried to maybe talk to them directly. Maybe you've brought it up. Maybe you've gone to therapy. Maybe you've tried to work on it. And they're either unwilling, unable, incapable. Something is stopping the process. And there might be a moment when you go, wait a minute. Okay, well, then I'm the only one. I can do only as much as I can do on my side. Mm-hmm. And so you take the mantle up and you start to work on yourself and see what you can do on your side. I know we do that we say that in our couples mapping program. Sometimes people would love to do the couples mapping program with their partner, but their partner's not into it. So we say, you can do it on your own. You can map your relationships and see the crossover. At least you have that information for you.
Well, I was going to say that we're fortunate that personal development was actually one of the values that we met at a personal development event.
That's right.
Like, and we both have been married before. And
that'll teach you a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
I think stuff you can't learn out of a book. Oh my God.
Bit of an easier time in my first marriage than you did. I'm still pretty good friends with my my ex-husband, but still
I am too. I'm friends with your ex-husband too.
And you're friends with my ex-husband.
I introduced him as my ex-husband-in-law.
That's right.
People were very confused. Like, wait, what? Your ex-husband-in-law? They're like confused for a minute. Like, no, he's my wife's ex-husband. Oh.
Yeah. Well, it helps that he's a really outstanding person.
Yeah.
We were just too young and we weren't right for each other, but I learned a ton. And then when we met, I happened to have started my personal development journey.
Yeah.
And so you and I both, like, that was a value of ours that we entered the relationship with. In fact, it was one of my vows at our wedding that I was going to be as invested in your personal development as I was in my own. And that was like a promise I made. So I think we're pretty fortunate in that way that based on time, circumstance, situation in our life, we entered in with a commitment, not just to each other, but also to development and growth.
Yeah.
So that's nice. Even then though, like you said, there are times when I'm like, why isn't he growing with me in this way? I wish I want this to be the thing that we're focused on. And you have the same experience back. And I think that's part of the negotiation of a relationship, right? You have to figure out what's going to be priority, what are you going to work on. And there are time periods in our life where we're so busy that growth and development just has to take a back seat. It just does, because life sometimes gets just ridiculously busy. But you mentioned our couples mapping program, and I think this subject comes up when we talk about couples mapping so often, which is I would get the program, but my partner doesn't want to grow, or I'm the only one that's growing. So how could it possibly be helpful if I'm the only one that wants to do any work or change? And I've heard that not just in the context of couples mapping now, I've heard that a lot in coaching and just talking to people at events. What do I do when I'm the only one that wants to grow in the relationship? How do I get my partner into growth? How do I get them into personality type? Because for a lot of people, personalities or personality systems or getting into type, that was their introduction to growth and development. So how do I get my partner into type specifically as a launching pad for them to want to become better? And I've never really had an answer before. Like I'm like, I don't know. You can't change somebody. You can't want something for them more than they want it for themselves. You can't force them into it.
Yeah.
But we've been talking about this a lot and sort of discussing, okay, what happens when that's how you feel and you can't change your partner? Is there any recourse? Is there anything you can do? Is it over? Is the relationship just over? Or is there any way that you can take action, reframe, look at it from a different perspective? Like, are you just sunk when you feel that? Or is there something that can be done about it?
No, of course you're not sunk. I mean, I think that there's a lot of options for people on one side of a relationship to, well, certainly influence themselves. And I think anytime you change anything in a system that's running, we really like to tune into systems thinking here and not just cause and effect. You're altering a major node in the system that is your relationship, which is you. And if you actually are genuinely growing and changing and developing and furthering yourself, that is going to have impact on the relationship. Now, it might put stress on the relationship, but it's going to have impact on the relationship. It might put even further stress than you already have because maybe you've already been growing a little bit, further than your partner in a way. And obviously it's best to grow together, but you got to do what you got to do. But it definitely will alter things. It will definitely shift things. And I think it can put stress to get your partner possibly to grow as well.
Yeah, I suspect that the worst part is that churning feeling, that feeling of sort of being like stuck, right? The feeling that you're going to do all this work and they're just going to sit there and let you and nothing's ever going to improve.
Oh no, they're not going to sit there and let you. They might oppose you.
Yeah.
Right? They might actually undermine it, blame you, try to hijack the process. Yeah. It may not be a passive thing because unconsciously, remember your partner, as you start to grow and change, is starting to think unconsciously like, oh crap, I know how to relate to my partner in the dynamic we've been in. What happens if they grow and change and they become different? What if they don't like me anymore? What if they grow and change and they realize like, I'm not willing to grow? What if they outgrow me? This is unconscious stuff, right? And that's just one avenue. Or what if they try to like take over the relationship or get us to do something I don't want to do? Or, it could be any one of the fears or concerns or threats that your partner could face. And then they're creating drama randomly and you don't understand every time I want to go to this personal growth workshop on the weekends, there's an emergency at home and I can't attend these forever. What is happening? Like you start to notice the pattern. They may not even notice it, but you start to notice, oh, they're undermining or they're hostile to this growth.
Yeah.
They could be apathetic and just let you do it, not be interested. That's probably the best case scenario if they're like opposed to it.
Well, I think the worst case scenario is you pour in a ton of effort and nothing changes or it gets worse.
Yeah.
That's the worst case scenario. The best case scenario is, an average scenario is something does change and it finally, like you said, causes enough stress in the system that people have to make choices. They have to make decisions. They can't just let it stay the way that it has been and be sort of miserable for either party.
Yeah.
The best case scenario is that they get influenced to change as well. And now you're growing together and now you have the relationship you wanted. But there's a phrase that Wyatt Woodsmall says, which is people don't want you to change. They just learned how to manipulate you as you are.
Yeah.
And so whenever we're in a situation where we're doing growth and development, we have to, on some level, expect some pushback. We have to expect that people around us are a little threatened by whatever changes we're making, particularly if they are empowering to ourselves.
In two ways, by the way. In one, what does this mean for me and how threatening it is? But another way, even beyond that, they might stress test it. Is this real change?
Right.
I'm going to throw back the old drama unconsciously again, start the old fight we used to have. Are you going to respond the same way? And they don't even know they're doing it, but they're stress testing you to see if you can hang, if this truly is change or not. So I think there's two fronts that happens on.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and when that happens, in some ways they're doing you a favor. They're putting you in a laboratory to see if the change is authentic and real. And that's the only time that you truly communicate to another person that you've grown is when they throw the same old at you and you respond in an unpredictable way.
That's a good measurement.
For sure.
Okay.
I think of it as like two people in an almost choreographed dance, right? Like if two people are, let's say they're the only two people in a room that are dancing, but there's two of them, right? And so there's a sense of like, well, there's two of us, so there's safety in numbers, so it's okay that we're doing this dance. But if one person just stops and looks at the other person while they're dancing, pretty soon that the individual that's dancing will feel self-conscious and they'll stop too. And that's what you're trying to do. When you're growing and you're in a dynamic with another person, what you're trying to do is you're trying to end the same old patterns, the same old dance. And eventually, if you just refuse to engage and enter that dance with them, eventually they'll stop because they'll feel self-conscious around it. Now, what action they'll take after they stop is not necessarily, that's not necessarily under your control, but at least they'll stop being in that same dynamic with you. And so there's what's interesting about this idea of like, I'm the only one that's doing any work in my relationship. When you look at it, as we've already established, you cannot control another person, but you can influence them. But I sometimes get a little suspicious by the statement to begin with. So I think what we could do. The
statement of what?
I'm the only one in the relationship that's trying. I'm the only one that's doing any work.
You don't buy it.
Well, I didn't say I don't buy it. I said I get a little suspicious, which means that sometimes it's empirically true and sometimes it's not. So I think what we could do is we could go through almost looking at it through multiple perspectives, this statement or the situation, and see if there's anything in a bit of a diagnostic to go, okay, well, if I'm that person that feels that way, and we might all feel that way to some extent, right? Like even in a relationship where it's built on the value of personal development, there might just be, no-go areas, sacred cows, things that the person is not willing to reevaluate. And you go, I feel like in that moment, I feel like it's one-sided. I feel like I'm doing more work than they're doing, at least on this topic. And it feels like I'm doing more of the heavy lift. So regardless of what situation you find yourself in, or if you're currently not in a relationship, but you have been in the past, or you want to be one in the future, I think doing a bit of a deep dive, maybe sort of an intellectually honest deep dive, can help maybe diagnose some of the things that might be going on and anything that can go back into your control, because the other person is not in your control. Like you cannot control them. You can't make them do anything. So what in this situation might still be in your control to change, to do something about, and influence the dynamic for the better?
I think it would be important to add a little framework here as we talk.
Okay.
To be useful.
Yeah.
We don't have time to go into it in depth, but I think often in relationships, as we start to talk about this, it's going to be easy to fall into a drama triangle dynamic.
Yeah.
And the drama triangle just is a diagnostic that speaks to when people fall in this dynamic where they see themselves in one of three roles in a relationship. Either the victim that things are happening to, the savior or hero that's saving the victim from those things happening, or the villain that's causing those things to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And in a relationship, it's very easy to get into I am the victim, I'm the only one growing, I'm the only one changing, and that bad guy over there, Antonia, she's the one not really putting the work in. Joel over here is doing all the work. He's the victim, she's the villain. Not only is she not working, but she also makes it harder on me, and she's tough, and it's her problem. I am above it all, and I'm going to do the work. Like, that's like this victim. It's like not above it all, but like I'm in trouble, and I got to do. It's like that kind of a thing. Like I'm victim. Yeah. And sometimes I'm looking for a hero to come and save me, or maybe I could if I only could step in the hero role for our relationship and save it, I wouldn't be the victim. Like it's this dynamic, and it can flex and flow back and forth. We recorded a whole podcast on this, talking about being an empowerment dynamic to see. You see the victim as a creator. I'm a creator of my reality. I'm not a victim to it. The hero isn't really going to come and save anything. It's a coach, somebody that can kind of offer guidance, advice, and support. And the villain isn't really a bad guy. It's not the villain. It's not an evil person. It's a challenger. It's an energy that's challenging, or a person that's got challenging energy to help put pressure on the creator to create a reality. So it's like a lot more positive way of seeing this, and encouraging way to see this. And so I think that we can easily slip into the first dynamic I mentioned and not the second as we talk about this.
Right.
Not you and me, but somebody listening.
Yeah. So it's been a minute actually, now that I think about it. Like when I say a minute, I mean, I think it's been literally years since we recorded the
might
podcast.
Be year 1 or 2. I don't know.
Yeah. Ooh. Like, I mean, by a minute, it might be like nigh on a decade.
But 9 years ago.
We talked about like you said, the drama triangle, which is that victim, villain, hero, it's an oversimplified model of reality that we get fed to in stories so much. And I think that it's getting worse because we consume so much content.
Yeah.
I think the more we fill our lives with stories that are generated by creators, which we do now. We have so many stories available in streaming platforms, and it's like we can't be a minute alone with our thoughts anymore. We have to be entertained all the time.
Yeah.
So we're getting fed this, this drama triangle all the time because it's such a good writing device, really. Yeah. And as you mentioned,
the news uses it now. That's the problem.
And the news.
That's where it went off the rails.
That's right.
They're creating narratives with this dynamic.
Yep.
And so the news article now has to have a villain, it has to have a victim, and it has to have a hero. Yep. It's like, oh my God, right? It's like not helpful for anybody.
It really isn't. But now it's painting our reality, right? And that's how reality is designed. And as you mentioned, the antidote is what's called the empowerment dynamic, which, as you just mentioned, swaps the hero for a coach, the victim for a creator. Right. So they're not a victim that's just on the receiving end of things, but they're actually creating their world. And instead of the villain, you've got a challenger. Yeah. So I think that's a really good model to reference. Excuse me. And so I also want to, I think that's something we could probably weave in through all of this.
It's good to have in the background as we talk, kind of running in the background.
For sure.
Just because it's easy to fall in this dynamic as we think about our partner.
Yeah, absolutely. When we're talking about our partner being, this villain, it's like, well, maybe they're just challenging us. Maybe that's just what's going on. And the other framework is we're going to look at this idea of taking the statement, I'm the only one that's doing any work in the relationship. We're going to look at it first through the lens of the person making that statement. Why might they feel that way?
Yeah.
Right. Both in intellectually honest and maybe less honest reasons. Right. So like, why would they feel that way if they're being totally intellectually honest? Why might they feel that way if they've got some blind spots? And then the second layer we're going to look at it through is the person who is the partner. Like, why might they be reluctant to do this work? Like, what's going on for them? What might some of those resistances be? And then finally, the person making the statement, how could that statement maybe be a coping mechanism?
Yeah.
What might be going on in a deeper level for them that they might be unaware of? And maybe this statement is actually a bit of a smuggle for something else going on.
So buckle up. If this is you personally, right? You in your relationship have made the statement like, I'm the only one doing work. I'm the only one willing to grow. I think it's useful to unpack this and kind of examine. Also, we have a lot of therapists, coaches, and practitioners, people helpers that listen to this.
Yep.
I think it's also useful because I'm sure if you're listening right now, and you work with people, I guarantee you've heard this in couples counseling and in your relationship coaching or therapy or anything. Because I know a lot of those types of people listen as well. So let's get into some of this. I guess this is a fantastic framework to talk about this through.
Okay. So first we're going to meet it with like full intellectual honesty, as in like the person who's making the statement, they're saying it from a place of true like positive motivation and honesty. And there's like 3 primary reasons why a person might feel this way if they're being really honest with themselves. The first one is that there's genuinely an effort imbalance. Like they are genuinely putting more effort they're putting more resources in it, more emotional resources, maybe time and energetic life force, right? They're actually pouring more in than their partner. And in that way, you would feel like, well, if we grow together, maybe if we do a little bit of personal development together, right? Maybe I won't be the only one doing the heavy lift. So that's the first one, is that it's just true. They are just doing more of a lift. The second one is that they feel a lack of reciprocity, which is that maybe their partner is pouring things in, but they're not feeling it. So they're pouring a lot in, and the channel that their partner is giving back in is a mismatch. So there's just not the reciprocal nature of it. And so they genuinely feel like they're doing more because they're just however they are designed to receive, they're not receiving back what they're giving. And the third one is that they just might have some unmet emotional needs, right? The person it might not be empirically true that their partner isn't giving anything or giving as much, but whatever need is going unmet in the individual is perpetual. And so it makes me think of why we keep eating when we're missing a nutrient.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're hungry for something specific, but we might not know what that is. And so we're kind of almost, we're famished, right? We always experience that we need more from them because there's actually a specific thing we need that we're not getting.
We talk about it with clients when we talk about love languages often. And I think this kind of comes down to that area. It's almost like what I hear in that point is I'm sending all this love, like your partner might genuinely be trying to grow, but it's on a channel, like you said, you can't hear, or you have such a need in one of your quote unquote love languages or need languages that's not getting met that you almost can't hear it. It's deafening anything else they're doing outside that channel. So let's say you need a lot of affection as a person, and your relationship is just void of affection.
Yeah.
And your partner is actually doing some personal growth work, and they're working on like maybe how they're behaving, like a bunch of other stuff, but they're not giving you any affection is what I'm hearing. And it's like, it just goes deaf. You can't hear it because you have such a great need for affection in this.
Right.
That if they could just give a little bit of affection, oh, I see what else you're doing.
Right.
But you can't see it or hear it because of that. So it's almost like it's muting. This loud channel of need is muting out all the other channels.
Yep. And so then that leads to overlooking your partner's contributions.
Yeah.
And that might be one of the biggest culprits, is that they are giving, but they're giving in a way that is different than your style or is different than the channels that you're used to looking at or seeing. I mean, how many people have, we did a whole podcast on love languages as well. Again, it's been a minute, but how many people have learned love languages and gone, oh, if I had known that, I wouldn't got divorced.
Yeah.
It's like this whole game changer for people to know we send and receive love on different channels. And so we might just be overlooking our partner's contributions because, and that's love languages, but man, knowing type makes this really helpful to recognize that if you're partnered with somebody who is giving on a channel that might be, say, usually the stereotype is that they're giving on a channel that's a little bit, more practical and you're on a channel of emotions. But I think of it the opposite too. Sometimes a person is really emotionally giving, but the other person doesn't need as much emotional support. They're looking for more practical things.
Yeah.
And so that person giving in an emotional way feels like indulgence, right? They feel like that's just, I need you to show up in life. I need you to be more practical. And then the opposite happens as well. Like that, one partner is giving on a more practical level and the other partner is needing emotional support. And then they crosswire.
I think the other thing too is sometimes growth is not doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't read that as much as doing proactive things. But like a lot of times, like I know this in certain households, like a kid that was treated really badly as a kid doesn't treat his kids badly, or she doesn't treat her kids badly. Like they treat their kids better than they were treated.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe like it wasn't full on abuse, but it was like kind of on the edge of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like really sketchy, but they don't do that with their kids. And then their kids don't do it. They broke the chain, but it's like, they're not the greatest parents. They just didn't do the terrible things that their parents did.
Yes.
Like they're just kind of baseline.
Yeah.
But that's like a step up. Like
right.
It's
that's
not
progress.
It's not an amazing step up. Like, you always wish for more, but that's better than what was before.
Yes.
And so sometimes our partners too, I mean, I've been guilty of this, even with you, Antonia, like you've maybe done very small micro things like stop doing something, but I didn't really notice as much because it's not as proactive or obvious, but yet it's very much a gift to me or the relationship or growth evident. And I'm not as attuned to it or grateful for it because it's nothing to celebrate. It's kind of like, well, you should have been here already.
Right.
Like finally got up to baseline, right? I'm sure you have tons of those for me too. But I think that's something else with our partners is sometimes your partner gets up to kind of a healthy average level and you're like, why aren't they doing more? It's like, dude, you realize how hard it was to get from where they were to this kind of general health level.
Mm-hmm.
And they look like milquetoast and basic and normal and like flatlining there. But that flatlining is positivity.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a good thing. Like that's better than where they came from.
Yeah.
So getting really tuned into some of those gratitudes of where they are.
Yeah.
That's how it's been like, that's how I've helped my relationships in life.
Being realistic and charting progress.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Because a lot of growth and development, I mean, there's two fronts for growth, right? There's internal processing and processing unprocessed material, which can be, that can be very like hard to see from the outside. In fact, the person might even appear to be withdrawing because they're dealing with some stuff internally, which is for them growth and development. It's like helping them have a more healthy psyche. And then the other front is changing behaviors in the outside world. And sometimes we change behavior in the outside world to do inner processing. And sometimes we do inner processing to change behavior in the outside world. And it kind of depends on who you are. It depends on your type. And it depends on the thing that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
It's not totally predictable. And so sometimes our partners are dealing with those kinds of things and we just don't see it or know how to communicate it. And the worst is they don't know how to communicate it.
Yeah.
They're dealing with it, but they don't have the language for what's going on. And so it's really easy to overlook those.
And I want to go back to the measurement you gave earlier in this episode, which is watching the same content enter a dynamic and your partner's behaving differently, like behaving better differently. Even at a small change, that's an improvement. That's encouragement. That's movement toward growth.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what you're looking for is the measurement of a different behavior with the same material.
Yeah.
Or similar material. And
to really, to understand all this stuff takes a keen eye and some really good communication. And not everybody is either pre-wired for good communication or has been taught how to be a good communicator. And that doesn't mean they're not doing work.
Yeah.
And so I think I think it's being willing to tune in. If your partner has a challenge with communication for whatever reason, you might have to observe it in other ways. You might have to tune in. And then the important thing is when you have seen progress, right? And to have realistic expectations around it, of course. They're not, and you're not going to be like, okay, here's the thing that bothers me, get on it. And the person's like, okay. And then now they're immediately changing. Sometimes it takes years and years for the person to rewire something that might have been there ages ago.
Yeah.
And it's slow. And you have, and the challenge with that is oftentimes we don't mention things, or at least I've been really guilty of this. I don't mention things until they're already like redlining. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm only mentioning this because it's intolerable now.
It's so unfair to me.
It's so unfair.
Because you're like, hey, I should have told you this 10 years ago. And I've just been dealing with it. Now I can't tolerate it even one more second. Fix it immediately.
Immediately.
I'm like, I didn't even know it was an issue.
Yeah.
Why'd you let me do it?
Oh, I know.
Why are we... What?
It is probably
now I gotta like fix it overnight.
On my top 5 worst traits as a partner, I think it's up. I think it meets the top 5.
Oh, I could think of worse. I'm kidding.
Yeah,
no,
can you?
It's totally good.
You're like, I don't know. There's so many. How do they all compete for top 5?
But it is definitely a jarring experience.
It is, and so that's. I mean, then I am impatient. I'm like, it has to change as fast as humanly possible because I can't tolerate it anymore. It's like, well, no, that's really on me because I only mentioned something late.
Yeah.
Right. And part of that is because I'm not registering it. I'm just kind of dealing with it. But that's not your fault. Just because I have a blind spot and things that are bothering me, like, just because introverted feelings, my 7th function is not your fault. Right. So it's
your lack of self-awareness and candor is not my emergency.
That's right. That's exactly it. Yeah. That lack of self-awareness on my part does not constitute an emergency on your part of change. But I have noticed that when that happens, I mean, the amazing thing about you is that you'll take it seriously, even if I'm being totally irrational around it. And there have been things that have been really deeply entrenched behaviors that have been things you have relied upon your entire life that I'm like, I don't think I can handle this. I can't tolerate it anymore. And there are things that you have done tremendous work around for months and years. And it's easy for me to take it for granted because I can't handle it anymore. Right. And it's like, no, like the thing that you're doing is an extraordinary lift. So I think the antidote to that one is observing progress, no matter how small, no matter how much it's been articulated or communicated or expressed, noticing it, and then feeling and expressing profound gratitude. Because even little things might have been a huge shift for them, huge shift. And it might not be where you want it to be, but I mean, just the fact that they're willing is massive. So sometimes people don't experience that, but I suspect that a lot of times when somebody believes that they're the only one doing the work, I suspect that there is work their partner is doing, but it's harder to spot. And so you might have to be a little more canny about how you're looking for it.
Yeah.
Another reason why a person that might feel like they're doing all the work that is not as, aligned with reality is that they might be externalizing responsibility, right? They might feel like they've done as much as they need to do for the time, and now it's their partner's turn, right? And so they're kind of externalizing the responsibility that for the relationship onto their partner, maybe even categorically. And there might be some projection of personal issues going on, which is related. So it might actually be some stuff that, you actually do need to work on, but you are seeing them through your partner because they might be like shadow content or content that you're unconsciously, you're just not aware of it. And so it's showing up as a trigger when your partner is reflecting it back to you. And so you go, it's their issue, not mine. And that's why being aware of one's shadow, doing shadow work is sometimes the healthiest thing in a relationship.
Yeah.
Like we talked about before in previous podcasts, that whatever is in our shadow plays out in the political and social sphere. But that includes in a relationship. That doesn't just mean in the politics of society. It also means in the politics of your relationships and your marriage or your partnership. So being really aware of things that you're projecting onto your partner because it's actually your stuff, I think that that's really important.
I think this is a good list. As we're talking, I know that, somebody right now has the experience of going to their partner and they're resistant possibly to this, or they're just not going to get on it. there might be some legitimate reasons for this. Like it's not, or at least your partner's got stuff going on for them, and they probably have some really, like to them, it's legit pushback to what you're trying to do. I mean, I'm imagining right now, like, especially in my first marriage, you know, if my ex-wife had tried to bring something in, even a framework that like personality types, maybe that I would have been interested in because I'm interested in systems and models, but something that she was interested in that I wasn't necessarily tuned to. She's like, hey, this is going to help our relationship. I would immediately think it's a power play. She's trying to get ammunition to win against me.
Right.
Because that was our dynamic.
Right.
And I'm thinking, I don't think I would have seen it as an opportunity for growth. This opportunity for growth is her to connect me to some material, possibly to weaponize it and try to get me to do what she wanted me to do, because we're already, you know, a disagreement about saying. So I'm trying to think, like, I'm kind of empathetic to the partner that's a little resistant, because I was the partner that was a little resistant in one way.
Yeah.
If she had brought something.
Yeah.
Now I'm also the partner in that relationship. It's weird. I played both roles in there. Like she would do things, but I could feel his power grabs, but I was genuinely trying to do growth work. But then if I'm honest with myself and I reflect it, I probably was also doing power grabs too.
Right.
Because we're in that dynamic, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm really honest, we are probably playing a lot of games, both directions, and it's triggering back and forth.
Yes.
So I wouldn't say I was highly growth-minded person in that specific dynamic, although I wanted to be.
Yeah.
But there's legitimacy from the person pushing back, I guess. That's the point I'm trying to make. And I think that we could also talk about, why would they want to push back?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
So you might be a person who does feel like you're doing the majority of the legwork, that you're doing the growth, and you're trying to convince your partner to do so as well. And they've got some, they're throttling, they've got some resistance. And as you said, you might be in a dynamic with them where they experience it as a power play. I think that's not uncommon. And so I think a smart thing to do is to ask what is the dynamic here? Is it one of growth and development? Is it one of trust, mutual trust and vulnerability? If it's not, then that's a very understandable reason for somebody to dig in their heels, is to go, you're just trying to get me under your thumb. And that could be valid. I think another reason that a partner could throttle or to be reluctant or resistant is a fear of change, right? If you go, no, we need to grow in our relationship and do all this personal development work and we need to change. It's like, okay, well, what if I like the relationship, or what if I like who I am, or what if I like who you are? What does growth and development actually mean? If you're not a personal growth person, that sounds like becoming a different person, right? You want me to become a different person? Why would you want that? It's like, don't you like who we are? I think it's a misunderstanding of what growth means, but you might be approaching it in a way where it kind of sounds like you mean that the person should be changing. And then that also leads to a bit of like, well, what, am I not enough? Right. So there might be a kind of an offense, right? Like, are you saying that I'm not enough for the relationship? What do you think I need to grow and change? And you could even say like, no, I need to grow and change too. But it's like, okay, but you get to decide that for yourself. When you're saying it for me, I might take that as an insult or an offense. Like, what do you mean I need to change or grow? Yeah. So I think those are understandable reasons why somebody might give some pushback.
Well, and in some ways it's unspoken, but you're inserting a meta frame over top of the relationship, that this is the reality that I see in front of us, and we both have to buy into it. We both have to be growing right. and changing and striving. And that's definitely a perspective. That's definitely that's an assumption you're making. That's definitely a worldview you're bringing, that not everybody has that worldview.
Yeah.
And your partner certainly may not have that worldview.
Well, they might genuinely believe that the relationship is fine.
Yes.
Like they might not see the problems that you're seeing.
And they are fine.
Yeah, they're fine. You're fine. The relationship is fine. So they might be confused or unaware of what you're even, what problems you're observing.
Yeah. And I think it is something that we have to, I think that's the other thing that people push back on, is we have an unconscious sense that we're being reframed into a place where we can't escape. Right? Like investigative reporters always do this. They try to pin the interviewer in where they can't wiggle out of a question or something. They're framing it just right to get that answer that's going to be binary, that's going to really showcase that person interviewing in one light or another, right? They're framing it just right.
Yeah.
And we kind of are in this world now where framing is very much
A weapon.
It's like everybody's trying to out reality worldview each other. Like, okay, no, this is the real reality worldview. You should be seeing it from this angle. Right. It's like shifting the perspective and the framework we're using. And I think we're starting to get a sense, because it's especially been weaponized unknowingly for years, we're all of a sudden realizing, wait, that's been happening for a while. And so I think people are getting savvy to this, and they're kind of, even if they don't need to, I've noticed people are like reflectively against it. Mm-hmm. Like somebody will watch one of our podcasts like, oh, what is this BS, like hairy fairy energy, tune in and just like, like they project all this thing onto us because someone else has tried to do this somewhere else in their life.
Yeah.
And they assume we're trying to do the same thing just because we're using similar words.
Yeah.
So your partner also might have heard something in the zeitgeist, a framing, attempt to push them into a corner and frame them in some way. They're like, I'm not gonna let that happen in my relationship.
Yes.
And so they're reflective, they're reactive, they're pushing back. And it has nothing to do with the relationship, has nothing to do with them or you, has nothing to do with the content or the growth you're after. It's them ensuring that you're not trying to do that thing that was done to me at work at that class I had to attend to, or, whatever the thing is that they didn't like.
Or that thing that a previous partner tried to do to me.
Yeah, even more so.
Right?
Absolutely. Yes.
They've got unresolved past experiences from other relationships. They might be like, yeah, a previous partner tried to do this to me. And then now whatever that person's motivation intent was, which is different than yours.
We had this when you walked out of the room in the early days in a relationship.
Yes.
My ex-wife used to just end the conversation and would never resume it. And so I was like, you can't do that. You can't just walk out. He said, I'm not leaving forever. I just need to go clear my head.
Right.
Get myself centered. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
I rested into that, but I had to learn that's how your style is.
Well, because you would follow me and I'd be like, I just need a minute.
Yeah. I'm like, no, we got to resolve this. And so I learned that wasn't you trying to frame me or control. You were actually doing what you said you need to do. Go get a good space for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You weren't lying about that.
Well, because fights emotionally overwhelm me. Yes. I get filled up it's almost like I can kind of feel my emotion barometer filling, and all of a sudden it goes ding, and it's like, okay, you officially cannot think anymore. So I'd be like, I have to leave the room. I have to go wash some of this emotion out so I can get my brain back.
Yeah.
And you thought because of previous relationship, I was just ending the conversation, and I'm like, I'm not ending it. I promise. I just don't have my brain. Yeah. And so we had to work through that. We had to get code words, but initially, I mean, it's very easy to it's inevitable for us to bring, it's expected and inevitable for us to bring the baggage of our previous relationships in. So, there could have been that whole idea of like, they're just trying to gain power, or they're just trying to say this thing that actually could be like a repeat of a previous pattern that they're bringing into the current relationships, and you kind of have to be aware of that.
Yeah. Are we saying that your partner really does want to grow? It's just all these other reasons. No, your partner might be a dipshit. Like they might be they may not want to do anything. They might be exactly how you see them. But I think what we're trying to do is expand the framework here to say, well, just do a double check. Maybe there's other reasons why your partner's resistant besides them just not wanting or being completely against you.
You said words very fast. I'm assuming you didn't actually see. I heard you say, no, your partner might actually be a shit.
Dipshit.
A dipshit.
Your partner may actually be a dipshit. Yes. But we're not saying they're not. But we're saying just do some safety checks before you totally go down the road of like, okay, I just don't want to grow.
That's right. Yeah, no, like,
sorry.
Yeah, no.
I don't know why I'm like mumbling fast. I think my ideas are coming faster than my words can match.
Right. Well, and I think we don't know you or your relationship or your situation, but like you said, these are safety checks. They're like, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Right. And their reluctance might be something that I think the reason why we're talking about these is because it might be overcomeable.
Yeah.
It might be something that is just kind of stalling them. And you read it as a massive barrier, but it might be something that a little bit of investigating, a little bit of talking about it, a little bit kind of trying to figure out what's going on might make it so that that you can address the reluctance as opposed to, like you said, just kind of shrugging and giving up.
I want to tune into this thing. When I said earlier in my previous marriage, I was like, I'm probably also playing some games, which if I'm honest with myself, like, if you'd talked to me at the time in my relationship, I would have reported that I was wanting to grow. She wouldn't.
Right.
It was one-sided.
This is just her.
She wouldn't I was working hard. I was doing everything I could.
Yeah.
Now, years later, 15 more years later, I'm looking back going, okay, I have to take on a lot of responsibility in areas I didn't at the time. With hindsight and maturity, I bet I created a lot of dynamics that I wasn't aware of I bet I was bringing a lot of more crap to the situation than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
I bet I was unwilling to move or change in ways that I didn't realize at the time. And I bet you in a lot of that, I was projecting onto her, even my own insecurities, unwillingness, and inability to grow or something.
I undoubtedly was in my first. Yeah. I mean, my ex-husband probably listens. I think he listens to the podcast. So I just want to say right now to my ex-husband who's probably listening to the podcast, I absolutely brought almost all of it probably at this point. Like there was so much projection going on. There was so much blame. There was so much like me thinking I was working hard and like, oh.
So let's tune into that. What's going on in that scenario?
Can I just mention a couple more things that I think are relevant to the reluctance? Because I think...
You mean for the partner?
For the partner, like reasons why the partner might be reluctant. Because I do want to talk about what also underlying issues could be going on for the partner who thinks they're doing all the work. I do want to get to that. But I think it's really helpful to diagnose what might be going on for the partner who's reluctant. Yeah. So is it okay if I mention just a couple more? Okay.
What if I said no? What are you going to do?
Move on. I don't know.
All right, we'll just talk about the next thing then. Of course, I will be a lynch mob of listeners like, what was she going to say, Joel? Why would you say no? I have to. You framed me right now into having to say yes, didn't you?
I've been manipulating you the entire time. That's right.
Happens?
This is just this is part of my 10-part gaslighting plan. No, the reason why
you caught me right where you want to be.
I mean, I always assume that you have like an instinct for the energy of the conversation and how much time we're spending. So usually I just kind of go with where you're like, okay, we need to move on.
Oh, now you're being insulting. You don't have the energy for the conversation, Joel. I see what you're doing. I see how you're setting me up.
All right, fine. I'm just going to say whatever I want to and you'll deal with it.
Love of the nonsense. Go back to what we're going to say about so this is the person, this is the partner that's getting into the perspective of what might be going on for your partner. If you feel like you're one-sided.
That's right.
And you have the statement for yourself. We talked about, I'm the only one who wants to grow. Mm-hmm. Why do you feel that way? We talked about that.
Right.
And now we're talking a little bit about your partner. When you say, I'm the only one who wants to grow, what could be going on for them? We talked about a few things. You have a few more.
Right. Why could they be reluctant to all your offers of growth or getting into personality type or getting into whatever, maybe it's like we should go to counseling or we should be in therapy or we should go do this retreat or we should go through this program together or whatever it is. And if they're just feel super reluctant, we've been talking about some reasons why they might, right? They could take it as an insult. What do you mean I got to change and grow? They may be totally happy with the relationship, right? They might not see a problem. They might have unresolved past experiences that are making them think that, it's like, oh, you're just like my previous boyfriend or girlfriend or wife or husband or whatever is going on.
Well, I mean, I know somebody that's, they brought to their partners like, I think we should grow. I think we should have an open relationship. I think it would help grow us. It's like, Of course they're going to probably resist to that.
Yeah.
Like it depends also what you're saying is growth.
It depends.
The content matters.
What you are putting forward for sure.
For them to be like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
Yep. Yeah. A couple other reasons though, because I think this is one that it's like, why would my partner feel this way? One is that it could be overwhelming to suggest doing so. Like there might be a lot going on in their lives or your lives, right? As a couple. What if you have kids? What if you have stresses at work? What if your life is already overwhelming and now you're suggesting to take on this like major project of a relationship?
Yeah.
That might be too much. There might be a fear of vulnerability, right? It's like, what does this mean to get into all this growth and development? Does that mean I have to like unearth all this, childhood trauma, or do I have to expose things that maybe I don't feel comfortable, getting into myself? Much less with another person. So there might be some fear of vulnerability, which growth helps us work through. That's one of the keystones of growth and development is learning how to be vulnerable. But to a person who hasn't done it, that sounds terrifying, right? And so there might be some of that going on, which is understandable and legitimate, some of those fears. There could be a fear of failure, right? Like I tried, but I failed. And now not only do we have problems, but you also see me as a person who can't do anything about them, right? So there could be a fear of failure going on for them. And there could be a sense of loss of control, like you mentioned. Like what's going on here? Like what is really being put forward? Like what am I agreeing to? And so I think not that we have to go down the rabbit's hole of all of those, but there could be more going on for your partner than you realize. So when you put these things forward and they're reluctant, again, there might be value in diagnosing not that they are reluctant, but why they're reluctant. What's going on for them underneath? Yeah. And to have some sympathy for that, right? To have some like real genuine, maybe even empathy for why they might feel that way. And that it's not that they don't care about you and don't care about the relationship and don't want to improve and don't want your life to be better. If you're still in a relationship with somebody, not all relationships, some people are in relationships with people who are definitely set it and forget it, right? They're like, I partnered up. That was my only one thing. Now I don't have to think about anything. And there are some like legitimately bad people who are just awful in a relationship, right? And awful to be with. But if you love your partner and they love you, right? And like going off of the premise that everybody's well-intended here, but they're reluctant in this way, maybe you can have some sympathy for why, right? Because it might be like a legitimate concern and understable one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Now you're ready to deal with
I'm ready to talk about
my thing. Okay. So again, back to it.
Mm-hmm.
How are we as people that have the statement?
Yeah.
I'm the only one that's growing.
Yep.
How are we actually still part of the problem?
Mm-hmm.
How are we projecting? We think that it's the other person, but how do we have responsibility still?
Yeah.
Because I know I do. I know anytime I feel like I'm the only one who wants to change on this, and it's not just romance, it's the friendships or one-sided relationships anywhere. What could I be? And not always happening, but what could I be doing in that dynamic?
Yeah. So I think this is the really important one. And this is the check for the self. So we just talked about what the context might be. It might be actually legitimately you are doing like the lion's share of the work and they're not. It could be that you're projecting some stuff onto them, right? And that you're trying to make them take responsibility for things that are actually your responsibility. So it could be, it could be totally valid, but it could be also kind of dicey. We talked about reasons why your partner might be reluctant to enter into all these things that you think will be so great for the relationship to grow and change and be better. It's like there might be some things that might make them put the brakes on or not think that's a great idea. But now we're going to talk about what might be going on for the person making the claim that actually isn't as intellectually honest, whether we're aware of it or not. So I think this is maybe the most important check, right? To like make sure that this is not what's going on underneath everything for you. Because here's the problem. If you are making these statements to your partner, I'm doing all the, I really want to grow together. I really want to, do personal growth work. I really want to like grow the relationship and change it. And I think we need to do all these things. And your intent is not aligned with your words. If your words sound good, they're flowery, they communicate all of this, like, all of this positive intent, but there's some stuff you're smuggling in there. Whether your partner has language for it or not, they're going to feel it and read it. They're going to read this, whatever you're smuggling in, and that's going to take all the focus. And so in some ways, when we make these kinds of statements and we send these messages and signals to the person we're in a relationship with, we have to make sure that it's a clean signal. We have to make sure that we are doing our best to be as aligned with that message as possible. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like we can't carry, if there's any icky in the signal, that's what the partner is going to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's going to be loud.
Well, we're talking about the concept of congruence.
Right.
Right. And I think humans, when you understand this, it's a very powerful concept. Most people don't have congruence with how they are and what they say. There's incongruence there. Most people are kind of living a double reality at all times. Like I'm behaving one way, but I'm saying these things over here. And certainly if we have to like signal to others our goodness or our attunement to society, we have to be very duplicitous, right? We have to kind of pretend something maybe at work or something else of who we are, persona work. We talk about this because we have a different value set maybe than what the world expects. And so we start to kind of have a bifurcation there. And we're incongruent with how we really are versus what we're presenting.
Right.
And that's very obvious to see when we're in our personaed self, like at work and we have our business or work face on and we go home and we're more our real self at home, real self, whatever that means. We're less personaed at home. That's easy to see the bifurcation. But when you're in a relationship with somebody, it's very subtle because you may not even be aware of the incongruence.
Yes.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Right. It's like when you like get up on stage to give a talk, the audience can smell your nervousness, even if you're not giving any like obvious signals of it. They can just feel it.
Yeah.
Right. You're almost nervous for the person. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Somebody's giving a talk and you just know they're unsteady and they could mess up and they're just barely hanging on. And you're almost feeling like really uncertain and unnerved by it. It like makes you feel deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And they could be perfect. They could say every word and hit every point perfectly, but you just have this foreboding sense in your gut.
Feel it. Yeah.
Same thing for somebody gets on stage. They mess up their words. They're, oh, sorry, I meant to say this. And they're flipping slides around and they didn't get it right. But you can just feel the congruence.
Yeah.
And the consistency. You're like, oh, okay, they mean their message. So your partner can feel the same thing.
Yes.
And maybe it's not nervous. Maybe it's resistance they're coming up with. They're like, something's off.
Yeah.
I hear the words. They're perfect. But I feel the difference in your heart, in yourself. The congruence is off. It doesn't feel congruent with what you're saying. Like the energy itself. And they know you very well. Like they know the deepest, most intimate ways that you show up energetically. Like you guys have been extremely intimate together in a lot of different fashions. So like they are very much tuned to you, most likely. Even if they're not a person that's normally tuned to other people's energy, they're going to be tuned to you because you're their partner.
Yep.
So that congruence piece is very important.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what you're saying. It's like, watch for where you're unconsciously even incongruent with yourself.
Yes.
And you're saying this, but come on.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's a few things I want to mention that might be going on that you might want to do a little a deeper dig into what your motivations are. Now, you as somebody who uses introverted feeling or authenticity, what you taught me is that motivations are always a cocktail. There's always multiple motivations running. So it's not like anytime we do anything, you're going to have 100% pure motivation. Like it just doesn't exist. But if you are unaware of one of the things I'm about to mention, and so you're not acknowledging or owning it, that it's a part of it, then it's actually going to be a louder signal. It's going to feel sneaky. And so just being aware of it and going like, yeah, this is a part of it for me, but that doesn't mean that the other motivations, which are more pure, more honest, more intellectually and emotionally honest, it doesn't mean that those aren't also true.
Yeah.
So just make sure that if any of these are hitting for you, that that you own them, right? That you recognize that they're part of why you're making these statements to your partner.
Yeah.
Okay. The first one is avoiding specific conflict. So as opposed to just directly talking about an issue, like directly engaging with it, you might want to get involved in personality type or get involved in personal development because you're hoping that by focusing on these things that'll help a person grow, you won't have to mention these conflicts, right? Or something that's like a really difficult topic to bring up.
So grow the forest and we don't have to cut down the one sick tree.
Right.
Because we have a healthy forest. Look how healthy the whole forest is.
That's right.
What does it matter if we have one sick tree?
That's right.
Like we don't need to cut that down now or even address it.
Yep.
And you're saying it's a bypass. It's
yes.
like if I can just get a whole healthy forest surrounding the sick tree of the relationship, then we don't have to address that.
That's right. So it'll just somehow this unresolved issue will just resolve itself if we can focus on generalized growth and development. So if there is something that is a conflict that you're avoiding and hoping that doing growth and development or getting into personality types will help you address, that's going to be obvious. Not that it's obvious you're avoiding conflicts. It's going to be obvious that you're avoiding something. So it won't feel like an honest ask. It won't feel like you're going, we should be doing this thing because it's good for us, because they're going to feel you're actually avoiding something that is the real thing that would be good for you as a couple. The second one is a need for control. So one might suggest, you kind of mentioned it before, that it could be a power play. And in that dynamic, it might have been like, I'm the person who suggested this thing, and so it puts control in my hands or whatever. But I think the need for control could also be controlling the direction the relationship is going. So if getting into type or getting into growth is actually you trying to curate the relationship in a very specific way, that underlying motivation, that need to direct, kind of forge the direction of the relationship, I think that's going to feel pretty obvious too, even in a subterranean way.
I think one of the best places to see this is in religious frameworks. Sometimes partners want to get really serious about a religion they both grew up in because it gives the partner more, like the religion itself gives a framework that puts them in a better position of power. right? Because that's the framework of the religion. So by getting closer to God in this religious framework,
right,
I get more power.
Yeah.
And who's going to call me on that?
Right.
I'm getting closer to God. I'm bringing our family closer to God. I'm bringing us as a couple closer to God and whatever faith background you have.
Yeah.
And it's unconscious because you know that framework gives you more power, dominance, ability.
Yep.
And so that's what the kind of thing you're talking about. It's like those little insidious ways that you take over through the guise of growth, whatever that means. This isn't a religious framework, but it can also happen in personal growth directly.
Absolutely. In a very similar way, actually. In a very similar way. Another one is seeking validation, right? Like you might want to actually just be acknowledged and validated for how hard you're working, but you're kind of pestering the other person, right? To grow in a similar way. So it might actually just be that you feel unrecognized, and you're hoping that personal development will be the way that they'll open their eyes and suddenly appreciate you. And so it's actually not so much a desire for them, for you to grow as a couple, but for them to grow up enough to validate you.
To go, oh, this was hard.
Yes.
I just did it myself.
Yep.
Thank you for growing, Antonia. Now that I've done some of my own, I'm recognizing it in you. I'm giving you feedback now and saying, yeah, that was really good. Oh, man. That's kind of the secret desire we have.
Yes. Exactly.
For the partner to grow in that channel, potentially.
No, I'm not saying, by the way, that one's not necessarily a bad intent. It's just not as honest of an intent as I would like us to grow together, right? Yeah. It's like, actually, I want you to grow so that you can tell me how awesome I am because I've been growing. So it's a completely understandable motivation. And again, it's not like you have to get rid of any of these. You just have to kind of own them and acknowledge them. And once you own and acknowledge these secondary motivations, they sort of lose their power of corruption. Like you just kind of go, okay, that's a part of it too. Another one might be fear of abandonment, hoping that if you grow together, the person won't leave you. You might have like attachment issues or be anxiously attached and hope that growth will be the thing that binds you together more. Again, it's not necessarily a negative motivation or intention. It's just one that isn't as honest as I just want us to grow as a couple, right? And so just owning it and acknowledging it. And I think one of the big ones is, and I think that this might be quite common, is having unmet expectations. And by that, I mean, you imagined a relationship would be a certain way. You had these dreams or ambitions and desires, and you partnered up and you just kind of thought that your partner would fulfill whatever these expectations were for what partnership means. And then they don't. Right? There's some unmet expectation. Maybe there's one or two things. Maybe there's a lot of things. And you haven't reevaluated those expectations. You just know you're disappointed. And you're hoping growing, right? You're hoping their personal development or their figuring more out about themselves, or maybe growing as a couple will now make it so that you can meet them, right? That you'll get your unmet expectations.
I think in that same vein, a lot of people buy on discount, meaning they think to themselves, this person I'm ready to partner with they're not at the level they probably need to be in a pure way. It's okay though.
Wow.
It's that song from what was that, Frozen? That's the dumbest song in the movie Frozen. I cannot stand, but it's he's a fixer upper.
Oh
right?
yeah.
It's kind of this idea like, well, my mom jokes about it, but she's like, yeah, when I met your dad, he didn't know really how to dress well, but I figured I can fix that in post. Like I can work on dressing him better and having him more style. Like that's not a concern. Like hers wasn't about, like deeper things. It was just about his dress and appearance.
Yeah.
And she's like, I can handle that. I'll fix this one. I think we do in a relationship like that sometimes if we're insecure ourselves and we don't think we deserve a partner that's better for us. Mm-hmm. We're like, well, I'll just take what I can get and I'll just improve them. Yeah. That's how I'll do it. I'll fix it over time.
Ooh.
And I think that's probably where too, like the starting point was tough.
Yes.
Right? It's like now these expectations they're even higher than what they would have been had we been peers.
What a phrase you just used. Buy on discount.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. It's another way of saying we partner up with a project.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I got a project. So come on, project, let's catch up.
Yeah. It's almost like that was the purpose. Like I was going to help you, like the expectation you had, they didn't know it, but you had plans for their life. Mm-hmm. And you're going to get them to a place where you're going to be peers. You're going to be great together. This can work.
Right.
I've seen men and women do this. I mean, everybody does this.
Yeah.
Not everybody does this.
Right.
All types do this.
Right.
of people do this.
Anybody can do this.
Anybody can do this. And I think that's also a very big factor in when you're in this zone. You might be, everything after that point might be completely congruent and like you're not resonating with anything Antonia just mentioned, but the premise is off because you bought a discount, right? And so fundamentally, the assumption is very challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and quite honestly, especially if it's one of our first really long-term relationships, it might take a minute to realize that the expectations of a relationship versus the reality of one, like there's a lot of discrepancies that need to be reconciled. And it's just the difference between having an experience of something versus having an ideal of something. And so one thing we might want to do is reevaluate whether or not the expectations we had were realistic to begin with. And that no amount of growth and development that our partner can do will be able to live up to a fantasy.
Yeah.
And so how much of my expectation of my partner is fantastic, and what am I really asking of them? And so having a little bit of reevaluation of what did I bring into the relationship that is actually it's unrealistic and unkind. It's burdensome to my partner to ask for, right? As opposed to completely valid. And we each have, we each are supposed to come into the relationship independent, create interdependence, grow together. There's lots of different ways that this can be modeled. But am I actually adding further burden by having them meet something that was never really something that could be met to begin with? So I think that that's a really important one to reevaluate too.
Yeah.
So,
Tony, did you buy on discount?
I bought on discount. Yeah, that's right.
I knew it. I knew you were going to say that.
That's right. It was like, what was it? As is.
No returns.
No, it was actually.
It ended at zeros. There was no like 99 cents at the end. It was.
You were not as is. You were like new.
Well, I think some of the corners were a little bent and
a little
dinged
bit
up.
Yeah.
There's some dents.
I feel like I got a deal.
Gently used.
Gently used.
That's what you bought. You bought me gently used. I think.
Yeah.
It was discount. Yeah, it was discount.
I was like, I'm not gonna use this guy gently.
I'm not paying full price. Get the gently used. All right. So, anything else you want to mention before we wrap up?
No, I feel complete. Well, basically, I just want to, as we're wrapping up, I just want to say, it is understandable to feel both ways.
Yeah.
It's understandable to feel like you're the person who's putting everything in, especially if there's if there's an incongruity in the relationship, if there feels like it's one-sided, it's totally understandable to feel like I'm doing all this work, I'm doing all this heavy lifting and they don't seem to be. On the other side, it's totally understandable to be the partner who's like, I don't understand what the problem is. Like, what's going on here? So this has been sort of a diagnostic episode to say, if you feel this way, make sure that there's not something else going on as well. Really get in there, because relationships are both difficult and precious. When you're in a relationship with somebody that you really love and they really love you, okay, maybe it's because I'm a sexual subtype, and maybe it's because I have Aphrodite, archetypal energy.
Sexual subtype in the Enneagram. Aphrodite and the goddess, right? Pantheon of archetypal feminine energies. But I love love. I just do. I love it when people in relationships, I love it when they find each other. I love it when they work hard and get through tough times and are able to find good times again. I love it when they pour their heart and soul into intimacy and really they connect. Like, all of that to me is just, I think of it as divine. I think of pair bond relationships as part of divinity. And I think they're beautiful and gorgeous and precious. And I want them to succeed. I want people's relationships to succeed. And they're also incredibly difficult. They really are. And it shouldn't be undersold how hard they are to stay intimate with somebody who, is traveling side by side with you as you're making your life mistakes, as you're figuring yourself out, as you're dealing with the burdens that life throw at you, whatever that might be. Yeah.
There are certain time periods that are way more difficult than others. I mean, we're in midlife. It's called the squeeze for a reason. We've got elderly parents on one side. We've got, children, teenagers on the other side. There's so much that life can throw at you, and those things can either break you apart or they can make you come closer together.
Yeah.
And we really have to kind of, we have to check ourselves, we have to like make sure that we're approaching all of this with as much intellectual and emotional honesty as possible. And that requires vulnerability. It requires us making sure that we're not projecting things onto our partners. It means that we are, we're not just saying we're doing work, but we're actually doing work. That's the point. And so I think having just kind of a moment, just kind of a come to Jesus moment, just go, okay, I'm feeling this way, but is there something else that could possibly be going on?
Yeah.
And if it's any of the things we talked about, that's something that might be in your control. That might be, that's something that you might be able to do something about, so that the dance that's going on, that you can kind of go, okay, I don't think I want to do this dance anymore. And you stop. And then the other person eventually will get self-conscious and they'll stop too. And then maybe you can have real dialogue, real, true conversation. Even if the person isn't good at it or is reluctant to do so, you can have really honest, vulnerable dialogue that helps maintain that relationship and keep it together. Because as I said, a relationship that has like that level of love in it it's a thing that's precious.
We've been thinking and talking a lot about relationships lately, last few weeks. It's actually because of two ENFJs in our lives. One ENFJ, Brian, got our couples mapping personality types for relationships program. And, we're moving and doing stuff. We forget the programs we created and like to mention them to people.
Right.
Like they sit in our catalog on our website. And he's like, guys, why didn't you tell me about this? It's like changing so he's a pastor and he does couples counseling. He's also in our profiler training program. He came through PLP, Personality Life Path, ended up in profiler training, and he's doing couples mapping just right now during it with like, I think him and his wife. He's like, oh my God, this is unlocking so much in my couples counseling. I'm doing profiler training and this together. I'm able to like spot, I'm literally sitting there with a couple in counseling, Joel and Antonia. He's telling us this. And I'm like almost seeing the source code coming from them, from their types because of profiler training. And then your couples mapping is helping me help relate them. Like, okay, you're saying this because she's saying that. And look at your two cognitive functions. He's like, it's magic. I'm helping people. And he's not even been through the whole profile training yet. He just got started. And he was reporting this to us. And I was like, oh, that's right. Couples mapping is a really big program.
Yeah, it's a good one, actually. It's one of our best, I think.
And so it was a call and we're doing coaching in a group where he brought this up. And then another ENFJ who is with us too, JJ, mentioned, she's like, wait, I always thought you had to be in an active relationship or your partner had to do this with you. I would have very much been interested in it because I'm an ENFJ, she said, and that's very interesting, but I thought you had to both do it together. We're like, no, you could do it as one partner and just map the relationship and understand what's going on. And she's like, wait, I wish you had told me that. So now I'm going, oh, Antonia, you and I are not doing our jobs at letting people know, A, this even exists.
We're terrible marketers for this program.
Right. And number two, that you don't have to have your partner to do it with you.
Right.
And so I just want to encourage you, if you're listening or watching right now, you want some more practical steps to map some of the things we're talking about here, but also down at the personality type level.
Yeah.
We have an entire course, talks about attachment theory, talks about personality types in relation to that. There's modules that go through creating the map of your relationship next to your partner's relationship. It also comes with 2 owner's manuals, one for you and your partner.
Yep.
So you can also have owner's manuals, which in those have also relationship bonuses, which talk about how to think in terms of like how your type relates to all the 16 types and how your partner's type relates to all the 16 types romantically. It's just a fantastic program, like the couples mapping. So if you're listening, I recommend going and checking that out. I think that's a good place to start. If you want to take some action on some of the stuff we talked about today. And you do want to see changes in your relationship, but you truly are maybe right now the only one doing it, or your partner wants to join with you too. We've had couples do that. And even 2 years ago, we did like a whole like special weekend for this. We had couples show up, and I can't believe I keep forgetting to mention this when we talk about relationships. It's crazy. So anyway, I just wanted to mention it to you. I think this would be a great place to start. Again, it comes with 2 owner's manuals. If you just want to start with an owner's manual and just understand more about yourself, that's another great place to start. We've got one for all 16 types over at personalityhacker.com. And that's a good place to kind of get a sense of your car model, how your cognition's wired, what your worldview is, and how you make decisions, like how you see the world and perceive it, and how you make decisions about what you see. So I think if you go over to personalityhacker.com, start with an owner's manual, but if you really want to go deeper, go into the couples mapping, personality types and relationships. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, that's its full name. Couples mapping - personality types and relationships.
And thanks to Brian and JJ for reminding us.
Yeah, shout out to Brian and JJ.
Reminding us just the power of this.
Yeah.
And we also want to know, you haven't had a microphone, but you've been listening along. Is what we're talking about resonating with you? Have you found yourself in a relationship where you're like, I'm the only person doing this? And then you sat with it and you're like, well, I can understand why my partner doesn't want to. And then you sat with it longer and you were like, okay, I kind of see how I'm adding in or my expectations or whatever.
Right.
Like, where are you on that in those kind of categories? Are some of the things that we said, are they resonating with you?
Yeah.
What's your experience with this? Come over to personalityhacker.com directly below this episode, make your voice heard. Ask a question, leave a comment, share your story about what's coming up for you in your relationships you've had or the one you're in now. How is this resonating? How are you going to use some of the things we talked about today to go and influence what your dynamic is?
Yeah. And if you enjoyed the podcast, you can subscribe to us in lots of different places. There's Spotify, there's Apple Podcasts, there's lots of different platforms that you can not only sign up for, but you can also leave a rating and review, particularly on Apple Podcasts.
Ooh.
And I know that I sound like a beggar every single episode, but seriously, go leave a rating and review, particularly on Apple Podcasts, because that's that sweet validation. Hook it straight to my veins just to keep going. So I'd be very grateful. You can also watch us on YouTube. We've got a video podcast, which you might be watching right now. If that's the case, you can subscribe, and hit the bell to let you know when future episodes come out. And as we mentioned, couples mapping is just this fab program. It honestly is maybe one of the best programs we've done. It's just such a gem, and it just, we never mention it, and I don't know why, but it is a good one.
Change this up.
I know. So head to personalityhacker.com, look at our catalog of programs, and find couples mapping and pick up a copy of it.
Yeah. My name is Joel Markowitz.
And I'm Antonia Dodge.
And we'll talk with you on the next Personality Hacker podcast.